We always talk. We're not allowed to talk during the breaks because we talk about all kinds of cool stuff and then forget it.
Yeah.
What were you going to talk about? I was going to ask you about the eagle.
Yeah.
Which is, I could not believe it was your first visit. See, that's what we're talking about. Like, you know, he's a conservative guy.
Yeah. Everybody at work is like, where have you been?
Okay, and you ready?
Yep.
And we're back in.
We're back in. Fabulous. Thank you for waiting. We were having problems with the sound. I don't know what the deal is, but sometimes it likes it and sometimes it doesn't. So, we have our guest here, Xavier Axelson, and he's been reading us some of his wonderful erotic fiction, which is great. And, of course, they've been chatting it up during the break, so we need to catch you guys up to the conversation here.
Just a marvel. I was marveling over the fact that Xavier had never been to the Eagle, which is the neighborhood bar. I don't want to give too much away. I actually live closer to the Eagle, so I can say that much. But yeah, how could you have not like?
I just, you know, the last leather bar that I went to was actually the Ramrod in Boston, and I got kicked out because I swung from a light above the pool table and ended up in a stockade getting spanked. But that's another story. So that's probably why I probably haven't been in a leather bar. But a friend of mine actually is very well known in the community, and finally he was like, "I'm taking you out. You need to come and experience this." So I did, and it was great. It's not, you know, it was fun. It was everybody there was really great and comfortable and fun, and it was fantastic.
Have you gone to any of the leather title events?
I have not, and it's funny, I work, you know, a lot of the people I work with are involved, and I would love to go. You know, I think I am going to actually start going to more events. Number one, because I do want more people in the community to read you know, I want to be out there in the community as a writer and have that, you know, have people involved with my writing. But, and for my own interest, and I've actually recently just kind of have decided I do want to be more involved in the community, so.
We have friends of ours who are part of the center and do some of our panels and things who judge a lot of the leather events. So we sort of end up involved in the sidelines.
Oh, great.
You know, because we know people who do that. And actually really good friends of ours recently judged Daddy Bo and his slave girl. His slave girl actually recently judged one of the big contests that happened recently locally.
Was it Master and Slave?
It wasn't the Master Slave because that was done in D.C. But this was a gay leather title event, and she was the only woman judge. So it was really interesting that she was given that honor to judge that event.
There's a lot of events. That's another thing. Always something. Yeah.
There's always something
going on. Yeah, there's a lot.
You got the time and the money. You can do something pretty much every night of the week out here.
Isn't that amazing? It's just amazing that there's so
much
going on. I just recently, and this is another thing, I recently just went on, I didn't know Threshold had a calendar. And I was like looking at the calendar the other day, and I said, there is a ton of stuff going on.
Ton of stuff.
Who knew? I didn't. I can sell a vibrator, but I don't necessarily know the calendar of events. You know what I mean? I can definitely.
That's okay. Well, you know, everybody has to keep their own little niche of information.
Do you think that the West Coast is more? Is pansexual the correct word?
I don't know.
If a leather event includes gay and straight and heterosexual,
pansexual,
and trans people, I mean, I have always felt comfortable going into, like, I could walk into the Eagle with a girlfriend, like.
Right.
Is it different on the East Coast? Are people segregated more?
No, I mean, I don't. Well, all right. Well, I'll tell you this about Boston, and this is it's interesting. Everybody has their area, and everybody kind of stays in their area, and I don't know why that is. Like, the gays have the South End, the Irish have Southie, the Italians are in the North End, and everybody kind of is in their little areas, and it just kind of, and people do intermingle, obviously, but you know, it's kind of cool because everything's in one little spot. So I don't know that it's segregated, but, you know, they definitely have their areas and will mix and mingle accordingly, I guess. But the bars are a little, God, it's been so long since I've partied back there, but I do remember it being just a ton of people, and men and women and everybody. I didn't know what pansexual, I hadn't heard that term until I was going to go to my Kinky Valentine. That was kind of the first time that I saw that in print. I always kind of thought of omnisexual. I don't know why. Probably because of Sophie B. Hawkins. She said it first, and then I kind of went along with it. And pansexual, I guess, is I don't know if it's a new term or if that's just something that recently...
It's not very new. It's been a
while.
It has a while.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, it is safe to assume that there's plenty of dark leather places that are considered old guard, that are strictly like men's clubs. That
Oh, absolutely. There are spaces that are, you know, very high protocol, gay leather men, gay leather house kind of a space. There are also spaces that are mostly for women, lesbians or bisexual women, where, you know, all you're going to do is interact with women in this space, and men aren't allowed.
And I do think that that's necessary.
And that's fine. That's
I
necessary because it is different energy. It's different space, and for people who want that, they can have that, and for people who want a more pansexual space, they can have that. And for people who can traverse between different worlds, they can get very different energies in different places.
I mean, I didn't know about a lot of the clubs that exist for gay men. If they just want to have sex, I didn't know about like sex clubs. I honestly didn't, and I'm surprised that there are. I mean, I didn't know there were as many as there were in LA. Everyone's like, "You've never been?" I'm like, "No." You know, I'm like, "I have." They're like, "What?" Yeah, I'm like, "Oh."
So wait, where are these sex clubs?
I don't know. I guess that my recently was told about one called the Slammers. Slam her. I don't know how it's called. I don't know.
Is there still something that's considered a bathhouse? Is there anything like that still open?
I don't know. I've never been in a bathhouse. I don't know. I like spas. I like normal spa. I don't know if that counts as a...
I just want to sweat. Leave me alone.
Is Burke Williams a bathhouse? I don't know.
Getting a pedicure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pedicure and a blowjob. That's not a bad combination.
I think that's the title.
That's a good package deal.
I think that's the title of my autobiography.
Mani Pedi BJ.
You're right. It's not a bad thing. You know, what a birthday gift to give to someone.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. So you said that you also write horror.
I do.
I love horror fiction. So what kind of stuff do you write?
I have my first novel that I'm actually really I've been working on for many years, and it's basically about a small town that comes under attack by a succubus, and this entity just kind of takes over this town, and this young girl kind of has to come to the rescue and accept her heritage of being a magical being herself, and kind of the whole world starts to choose sides. Everything starts to divide in this battle between good and evil, and it's an epic. I finished the first part. I have a prologue and a sequel in the works, and it's definitely terrifying. I've had a few people read it, and my friend, people call me back and be like, I couldn't sleep because of it. And I'm like,
nice.
Yes. And I find a lot of romance. I know you had mentioned that I describe myself as a sensual writer, and basically what that means to me is I have a real love for the sensual world. I find a lot of sensuality in plants and nature and food and everything. I'm a sensualist, I guess. I love the sensual things. And in the book, in this horror novel that I wrote, people are like, I've never heard a flower described that way, where I actually feel like I want to eat it, I want to taste it, and that's what I strive for. And I think there can be beauty in scary things.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I love when things are terrifying but beautiful, and probably I think of Dracula and I think of a love story. I think that is a romance to me. That's romance. And so a lot of people look at my work and they're like, it's a little...
See, I'm a big proponent that Stephen King writes an amazing romance story. He writes an amazing romance story.
Well, I just got chills. You gave me chills. I actually was just thinking about Stephen King the other day. His books he has somebody, a writer's group had once, when I was reading my novel to them, they had said it's almost as if, and I couldn't be happier for the comparison. I hesitate to even say it, but they said it's almost as if Stephen King and Tennessee Williams had a child.
Damn!
And I was like,
Wonderful story.
Not that I'm purporting that I'm anywhere near that good, but if I could be, I aspire to be as good as they are. And so people have said, you have this ability to get into a small town and make, like Stephen King can, and make it as scary as hell. You know what I mean?
And they are.
Yeah.
I've been to small towns. They're frightening places.
They are.
There have been some that we've gone to. We're like, it lives here. We need to make sure we stay away from the storm drains because you know that clown's coming out.
And I describe my town as a Stephen King town. I'm like, I come from some little Stephen King town, and and the thing about small towns is there'll be like little scary areas. Like I remember a place called Devil's Drop, and I just remember being really terrified of it. And places and mythologies of who lives in the house in the corner, and the kids that were forced into the basement eating cat food and stuff like that. So there are all these things, and so what I hope to do is eventually actually bring a little bit of notoriety to my little town, and through exploiting it.
Well, sure. Why not? Why not?
Well, can I just congratulate you for surviving your high school years? Because we know it can be really rough depending on the time and place. And
thank you. When I came out though, I didn't have a typical coming out. I really wasn't harassed. I wasn't bothered. And when I came out, everybody just kind of like accepted it. I don't know why. I honestly don't. I hear horror stories and I'm horrified. And it's never easy coming out. And I've realized that recently. And I'm a 30-something-year-old gay guy. I think every time you meet somebody, you come out, and it's never ever gets where it's hilarious or fun to say it or more enjoyable or like there is something that happens inside you every time you say it. At least I've realized that.
Now, did you find, because I've talked to some friends of mine, gay and lesbian friends of mine, who went through their coming out and their sexual orientation and then had to kind of do it all over again with their SM kinky orientation, and that they were into kink or SM. And so did you feel that you had to kind of do that twice, or did it all come together, or? I'm gonna
tell you a little story. God help me, I'm gonna be struck dead. When I was 16, I had my first boyfriend, and he was older than I was, and I lied about my age. I had a fake ID, the whole 9 yards. So one of the first times that we actually had sex, I had decided that I was going to handcuff him under the sink to the pipe under the sink. And I was going to fuck him but also pour cherry pie filling all over him, and took various kitchen utensils and teased him with them. And this is at 16 years old. So I don't know that I had a second coming out as a kinkster. But, it
all sort of came together.
I just always have been. I think I recently told somebody that in one of my stories, in my cowboy story that I'm about to release, I have a scene with a blowjob where he goes and gets coffee for this guy, and he comes back and he goes, "Did you bring sugar?" And he goes, "Yeah," and I have him kind of pour sugar all over his cock, and then he starts to suck it, and people are like, "Where does that come from?" I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't I pour sugar on my dick and have you suck it? Like, to me, my mind goes there automatically. Do you know what I mean? I'd make my boyfriend read out of the dictionary while I blew him, and if he stopped reading, I'd stop sucking. I fucked him with a unicorn lollipop one night. You know what I mean? Like, my mind is always thinking and going in that direction. So I think I don't think of it as, I didn't realize that I was kinky or that I was
just who you are.
Yeah. And I've told people, I'm an old school kind of, I did become more dominant as I got older, and if I did have somebody coming over to clean, if I had like a domestic sub cleaning my house and I felt like spanking them, I wouldn't need a paddle. I'll reach for the paper towel roll. My flip-flop, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need anything fancy. I'm like, I can make this work with that kid's book that I have on the shelf over there and go get it. The paper towel roll, the whatever. So I think some people are just geared to naturally be that way. I don't know.
You're imaginative. You're so imaginative.
I try. And it's more fun. It's kind of like, and I think like people come along for the ride, and I think maybe they're the wackos. The people that I've been in sick in relationships have never said no to me. I'm like, I want to do this, and then I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I think as long as I always go by the thing of, if it's safe, sane, legal, then, we're good. And nobody's, breaking the law, then I think we're good. But
yeah, like all the girls that have come to you and said, my boyfriend wants this, and my boyfriend wants that. There's some girls who had boyfriends that were just like, we're doing this, babe. and you never met that girl because
Yeah,
it was
right.
like it all fell into place. I think it's that when the person plants that seed of doubt, maybe because the boyfriend, and I'm only saying boyfriend to girlfriend
Right.
because we've talked about that. She didn't trust the guy to begin with. She didn't
Right.
trust him to be on the journey. He's not totally into it, and she's not totally into it. But yeah,
And that's a problem. You got to kind of be on the journey together, or it's not gonna. Eventually, somebody's gonna get pissed off or do it outside of that relationship in that scenario. I think.
yeah.
So I always, I've had a lot of the boyfriends have actually come back to me and said thank you. I mean, when a girl comes into me and she's like, I love when a girl says to me, I want to blow my boyfriend's mind tonight, and I'm like, and I've said to people, I'm like, I'm gonna save your relationship, and here's how. Come with me. And I tell them all this is gonna take. Tie him up. And you know what? Again, I am not a big proponent of like $800 whips in this.
Yeah.
Buy a feather tickler, tie him up and tickle him. Tie him up, blindfold him and tickle him. And then pull out a vibrator and make him come with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and let me tell you, he'll come back to me and tell me, thank you. And so will you. You know what I mean? You don't need to break out the, zebra hide flogger and, you know what I mean?
You don't have to spend thousands of dollars doing this.
Keep it all low tech, yeah.
I say keep it in the kitchen, never mind.